I wore this tie in honor of Dean. It was really hard. Betsy, my wife, had pruned out almost any other tie that would have just started Dean's collection. As Eric Richards said as he saw it, and I explained to him the tie, he goes, "You really missed it 2 or 3 degrees." I see some from O'Melveny who are on the management committee, and those from O'Melveny think that O'Melveny went to casual dress because in the mid-90s the firm started representing many dot-com companies. The truth, I believe, is the management committee got together and tried to decide how can we stop Dean from wearing his ties. The Jackson Pollock, I think at our wedding he wore the Scream from Edvard Munch, still trying to assess what Dean was telling us. And his Jerry Garcia ties are legendary. When I first thought I'd like to speak, Betsy said, "You need to talk about how Dean made us honey, how he made us ice cream," which is why having ice cream today is so fitting for what Dean would have wanted. You have to talk about the conversations we had on a whole range of subjects. The cactus garden that I know Alia mentioned, that he made for us as a wedding gift. And just the joie de vivre that we've all been talking about. And I agree with Betsy on all of that, but I want to talk about 2 other things. That's Dean's character and his intellect. There's a saying, which I'm sure you know, that you can tell the character of a man by how he treats others when no one is watching. And in this terms, Dean was a mountain of a man, and I'd like to quickly relate 3 stories. I was a 4th year or so associate at O'Melveny, and I was involved with a nonprofit that ended up suing a major client of the firm. Unbeknownst to me, the client had called up Dean and said, "We love your firm. We'd love it even more if you could get that whippersnapper Heitner to get his nonprofit to back off the litigation." Dean said, "No thanks." He supported what I was doing in nonprofit. He would not tell me to back off, and he didn't like the implication in what the client was saying. About 2 years later, I was up in the dining room at O'Melveny, and I was saying how the lawsuit got settled. And Dean said, "Oh, I really need to give Jack a call." And I said, "Dean, why do you need to give Jack a call?" And he said, and he then relayed the whole story to me. And I said, "Dean, why didn't you tell me that the client had called?" And he said, "I didn't want you to worry about it." Dean was supportive, unequivocally supportive when no one was watching. The second was a few years later, the firm had started to focus on how much your book of business was. So I was now at this point a partner, and a partner came in to talk to me. So I was going through my book of business, and I got to Edison, and I appreciate those from Edison that are here today. And I said, "Well, this started when I was an associate. It's now a multi-million-dollar client. It's a major client. Dean's the billing partner, but I think I should get some credit for this." And the partner said, "Well, you have it totally wrong." And I go, "I'm sorry, how do I have it totally wrong?" "Dean a year ago gave you half credit for all the matters on Edison, unbeknownst to me, and when no one was watching, he gave me his business or our business." The third story that I'd like to say was the firm, a few years after this, was sort of evaluating its charitable giving program. How much the giving should be legally related or should be related to what a client gave. So I went up to Dean and I said, "The firm has historically been supporting this cause of mine. How do you think I should pitch the firm that they should continue to support the charity?" Dean said, "Don't worry about it, I'll give the money." So a few weeks later, I was at the charitable event and I was looking through the book of donations, and there was Dean's donation solely in the name of O'Melveny and Myers. As those of you who are here because of connections to the Weingart Center, to the library, and other causes, you know how much Dean gave when no one was looking. Dean was exceptionally smart. You know you're smart, and I'm sure Rob will mention this when he's up here. You know you're smart when the firm looks to you to be their lawyer when individual partners on their own personal matters come to you and want you to be their lawyers. But I never quite got it. For such a bright guy, I kept going to Dean. Dean, how can you read the same book over and over again? The tax code is only a certain number of pages, and I just didn't quite get it. I said, don't you get bored? It's like reading Gone with the Wind. How many times can you read it? And it was only till my daughter got me hooked on Sudoku probably a year and a half ago that I figured out to Dean the tax code was a giant Sudoku puzzle. He wanted to figure it out, and then he'd want to apply it to somewhere else or create his own puzzle. We did too many deals together, probably 500 deals together. Low-income housing, tax credit, energy deals, workout deals together. And I remember one meeting exceptionally well with Japanese clients of mine in the early 90s. Dean was at the top of his game. For about an hour he went on of all the risks, how to analyze it, what the solutions were, and it was beautiful. When Dean finished, the client said, Mr. Heitner, could we have a few minutes with you? I said, sure. So Dean left the room, and they go, and they understood English quite well. They go, Mr. Heitner, the words are English, but we have no idea what Mr. Weiner told us. And that really started our business relationship. Dean would analyze the issue, he'd see the options, he'd determine the risks, he'd determine what we should do, what opinions the firm would or would not give, and then ask me to go explain it to the client because they couldn't quite get it. And when I wasn't quite picking up on it quickly enough, Dean would get a little annoyed, and I'd say, Dean, why don't you draft it? That was my revenge. And then a few weeks later, I go, Dean, the words are English, but I have no idea what you're saying. So start all over again. Since I left Milton in 2000, I've been working in the low-income housing tax credit business. And that's a business that everything that I know, I learned from or with Dean. We did all those deals together. So every day I go into work, there's not a day that I will not think, Dean helped me get to where I am right now. When Dean or I hit the work wall, one or the other of us would go into the office and say, we need to go to McCormick at Schmick's or somewhere else and discuss life, which was a code word for having a drink or two, and talk about the firm, talk about our families, talk about our life. And these were amazing talks. Dean was the first person that knew that I was leaving the firm. We talked about everything. And I guess I echo Craig's and other comments that, Aviva, I don't really have words to express what you've done the last 13 months. And I hope I'm not out of school to share a conversation we had about 10 days ago when I was expressing this to you and you said you thought you were going to have Dean for 20 years. And what you did is you compressed 20 years of love into 1 year. I can't say it any better than that. Aviva, Alia, Ivan, I'm going to miss Dean very, very much. With his passing, I lost a partner. I lost a Clipper fanatic who shared tickets for many, many years. And most importantly, a very, very good friend. The last 7 months have not been easy for me as well, losing my father in July, losing Dean now, and not a day goes by that I don't think of both. I will miss them.